Our program today, going to have a special guest on. Olivier Melnick is joining us. Olivier, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey,
I mean, there's a lot. Pardon me?
No, I said good to be on the show.
Oh, it's just great to have you here. And obviously, we've been looking at the events over the weekend. We're not going to cover them so much, from the Paris Olympics to the absolutely horrible attack of the Israeli Druze children. Just horrific, and all of the things that are continuing to just escalate against the nation of Israel. But we are going to be talking about Israel in a sense, because we're going to be talking about the Jewish people and the rise in anti-Semitism. We're still watching the protests. Last week when Netanyahu was addressing Congress, it was John Kirby, speaking for the White House, admitted Iran is funding these protests. You know, you're seeing these things. We're watching anti-Semitism increase. But I look at all of the different dynamics, Olivier, and I'm so thankful for you and speaking the truth, and you're Jewish, speaking the truth into these things. And I'm pretty confident that you get faced with a whole lot of anti-Semitic comments, even on your YouTube channel.
Yes. When I first got those comments, I would look at them and I would take it personally and I would delete them and report them. And I just go like, you know what? Even that is giving them too much attention. So I just ignore them, because the people are going to keep coming and complain. They find reasons to really point the finger at you. And it's pretty nasty what I get on, like you do too. You get them on your channel as well. So I just keep speaking the truth, biblical truth, and it's like people might be thinking, well, Tom and Olivier, why do you keep talking about Israel and the Jews all the time? Well, because God does. And then when we read his Bible, on just about every page, it says something about the Jewish people, Israel, and the future of Israel, and what's going to happen with the Jews. So, we read the Bible, we don't have a choice. If we take it literally, like you and I do, we talk about this all the time, and it's pointing into a direction that is going pretty fast towards the final chapter of what's going to happen with Israel and the Jewish people. It's kind of scary, especially if you don't know Yeshua.
Oh, absolutely. I think of just some of the dynamics that are taking place, looking back at the days of Nazi Germany, and I got to get to Genesis chapter 12, verse 3 also, because there we read the Bible. I will bless those who bless thee. I'll curse those who curse thee. Those who hate people like you or people like me, they will throw that back in our face, say, see, you use these things just to bless Israel. Well, just to be blessed yourself, but that's not true. I do it because this is what God's word says.
It's exactly. It's what the Lord says. I will bless you if you bless Israel. And guess what, Tom? It's a command. I mean, it's the right thing to do. But unashamedly, Christians should say, you know what? There's nothing wrong with wanting to be blessed by God. So if blessing Israel is going to bless me, then I definitely want to bless Israel. And I think in the process of blessing Israel and the Jewish people, Christians find out that they develop this nurturing and this loving thing for the Jewish people, and it becomes a natural thing.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Are you ready to talk about your new ministry yet? Publicly?
Which one? The Shalom and Messiah or the other network?
The other network.
Oh, I am very ready. I've actually just finished a promotional video to promote it. So yes, I'm ready as far as I can talk about it. Yeah.
Okay, let's go through a few things. Then I'm going to have you introduce that to everybody. It's really exciting, everybody. So exciting and necessary too. All right. First question. How does the current rise in anti-Semitism compare to the 1930s and 40s, and why is this historical context important to today?
Is this a multiple choice question or?
Sure, make it that way. A, B, C, or D.
What we're seeing right now, let me back up. I started writing and researching this almost 25 years ago. And when I saw 25 years ago, I started seeing the handwriting on the wall and people thought I was crazy. And I just thought, well, just wait. It's going to get worse and worse and worse. Never thought that it would be that bad in our lifetime, and or everything is converging and going faster and faster. The curve seems to be going up and really fast right now. We are definitely. We are in the 30s and 40s. It's not even we are in the 30s and 40s. Jewish people feel they don't feel safe anywhere in the world. It's amazing to me, Tom, that the only place right now, and it's shown by demographics and by numbers, that the only place that Jewish people globally feel safe is a country which is currently at war, which is Israel.
Yeah.
I mean, my family is moving, getting ready to doing their papers for Aliyah out of France. 3 nephews and nieces, and even my sister, who's 10 years older than me, she's in her mid-70s. She's going like, if my kids move to Israel, I'm moving. I have nothing left in France. And the rabbi of France said, the head rabbi of France said, there's no future for Jews in France. So, and that's just one country. You multiply that by all the countries where there's a Jewish community, they're all thinking the same thing. We're not safe anymore. You cannot walk on the street with a yarmulke. You cannot wear a Star of David or a T-shirt that says anything in Hebrew. You take your own life at risk. The Jews are going back to Israel, which in a sense, is a fulfillment in front of our eyes of the later chapters of Ezekiel, like chapter, Ezekiel 36, when the Jewish people go back in the land in unbelief, and then the valley of dry bones. So we are in the 30s and 40s. You see what's happened against the Jews on the streets of America, on campuses. It's horrendous. It's dangerous. It's scary.
Yeah. Well, I know you did a video a while back connecting some of the similarities between that era and where we are right now culturally and with society. And when I think of Kristallnacht, and I was on a panel not too long ago, and that subject came up, and they said how much longer before Kristallnacht happened? It seems to me like it's happening all over the place, not just one event. These things keep happening as we watch. We've seen the college campuses. We're watching what's happening to Jewish businesses. And it's not just in France. It's not just in England. These things are happening in America too. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, yes, that's a good point, Tom. If you unpack the events of Kristallnacht, you've got pogrom, which is attacks on Jews, organized attacks, very often organized by the police, or where the police is looking the other way, which is something that we saw in LA and in New York recently. Pogroms, organized riots and attacks. You've got boycotts, when people say, we're not going to buy or do business with any Jewish organization or business or person. So you got those things that, and then you've got killing of Jewish people and destruction of property, and so all those things. Killing of Jews, destruction of property, defacing of property, pogroms, and boycotts. All those things are happening. Now, in 1938, on the night of 9th and 10th of November 1938, on Kristallnacht, which, by the way, was the defining moment as far as historians and scholars are concerned, which was when the Holocaust started on Kristallnacht. You look at those 5 things, and you just give me an idea for another article. Thank you very much. You look at those 5 things, and they're not happening in Berlin in one spot like it did on November 9th, 10th of 1938, but they're happening all over the world. You put them together, you get a global Kristallnacht 2.0.
Yeah. So I think back to when you and I first met, go back about 10 years or so at a conference. I think it was the David Hawking conference that he put together. Yeah. And you were talking about these things, and then now you're living them. We're living through them, and even in most of the prophecy world understands what's happening, but there's so few people that are actually making this connection. But in a sense, it's very strange, Olivier, because I remember our conversations going back 10 years. looking at having you come out and speak at the church and talking about what it was in the days of Nazi Germany.
And Tom, you and I sat down and did a 2-hour documentary on all those topics, like explain to people, pay attention, it's coming.
Yeah, and you're right. In fact, that documentary is available at the Hope for a Time store. It's downloadable if you guys want to check that out. It's very good, outstanding. I was able to just ask Olivier questions like this and go through them. And I've been very well educated thanks to you. And but looking at, I mean, it's just so strange to talk about that happened back then. And the day is coming, and so much of what we see in my mind, I thought, well, some of these things won't really develop until the tribulation period. However, we are seeing them.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're not in a tribulation.
No, we're not in the tribulation.
No, we are definitely, you and I both have this pre-mill, pre-trib rapture position, which I think is the best explained through the Bible. That's the best view that you can find, the only view that really holds water, biblically speaking. So we're not in a tribulation, but there's no, and really I didn't pay attention to that. You asked me 10 years ago, I would have not paid attention to the fact that the Bible doesn't say it's not going to get worse before the tribulation or before the rapture. It's getting worse and worse for us. I mean, you see, not to discuss the Olympics, but the opening of the Olympics, you see the mocking of Christianity and of the, the Last Supper and all those things, and, all the pushing of all the globalist agendas. It's getting worse and worse and worse. And we know there's no guarantee that it's not going to be difficult before the tribulation, and yet it's not the tribulation, but we're getting very close. I wake up every day thinking today could be the day, because how much more is Yeshua going to wait? How much patience does he have before he returns?
Yeah, and we have both said for a long time that the two religions, or faiths, I should say, that will be persecuted and the persecution is going to increase against them will be Christianity and Judaism. Absolutely. And the reason why is because what the Bible portrays. The problem that the devil has with Christianity is obviously you have Christ, but you also have those who are genuine believers in Jesus Christ. Spiritually are the only ones who really stand as a defense for the Jewish people. In the spiritual sense, the devil knows that, and the Christian has to be removed. I believe that's why we see the increasing in the mocking, but also with the Jews, because the enemy of our souls has to attack the Jews in order to keep Jesus from coming back. I know that sounds almost like a sci-fi thing to those who don't understand the Bible, but if you read the Bible, it's very clear. Jesus said, I'm coming back, and here's what it's going to be like, and the Jews are coming back to the land. So much so, I think it's in Jeremiah 16, Olivier, where God says when the Jews are making their aliyah, they're coming back into the land, the day will come when it will be said it is a greater miracle than when the Jews were let out of Egypt across the Red Sea. Jeremiah chapter 16, verse 15. And people aren't looking at this as being a miracle. No, it's a miracle. God is drawing them back. Ultimately, it's going to have its fulfillment when Jesus returns at the end of the tribulation period. But we are watching it, and we are living in it.
We're living in it. It is happening in our very, in front of our very eyes. A lot of people, Tom, in our circles of friends and speakers, a lot of people say, are we living through the war of Psalm 83? Is it Gog and Magog? We hear all those things thrown at us all the time. The questions are asked all the time, and we all have, all different views on that. But the one thing that I think all of us across the board, across the board, including those who are not pre-trib, can agree on is the fact that the Jews are going back to the land of Israel in unbelief as we speak.
Yeah, that's so true, so well said. Let me ask you this. Can you reflect on the role of individuals and groups who helped Jews during the Holocaust and what lessons we can draw from their actions?
Well, this is very personal to me because it happened to my mother. My mother lost her father in Auschwitz. He was taken from the home that I grew up in when she was 15. She saw the Gestapo come get him, and then he died in Auschwitz. And probably within days after that, she was put on a train with false papers, sent to the southwest of France, and hid on a farm for the rest of the war for like 2.5 years as a Catholic girl. And she was rescued by a couple of peasants, farmers, who had no money, had a very little farm, and she stayed there and was protected by them. And they became, in 2013, I believe, righteous among the nations, according to the museum at Yad Vashem in Jerusalem. And this is something that took place all over Europe, where righteous Gentiles, righteous among the nations, as Yad Vashem labels them, people that were not Jewish, that did not take any money and risk their own lives and their own livelihood during the war, rescued, protected, and fed Jewish people for anywhere from a few days to a couple of years. And so that happened. I'm talking to you today because my mother was protected by a couple like this. And I believe that we are approaching, if we're not already there, a time where we're gonna have an opportunity to repeat, or I should say redeem history. Redeem, because too many people did not do anything during the Holocaust era, where now we have a chance for Christians, what you and I and Brandon would call the remnant church, the true believers would have a chance to really make a difference in rescuing Jews, which is part of what I'm trying to organize with our network.
Yeah, people are probably thinking, what do you mean rescue Jews? We're going to get into that in just a minute. Because I got to admit, Olivier, if I go back 4 years when you first brought up the concept to me with the other particular group, I thought, okay, they're going to probably have to come after Christians first to get us out of the way. However, you brought it up. And now we're seeing both. However, I still have certain freedoms. I'm not afraid to walk down the street, where if you're in certain parts of even the U.S., you have to be. I'm going to get to that in just a second. And also what you brought up, you mentioned this with Pastor Brandon, myself, and you, is this, you have this book amongst many others, but this is in the Hope for Our Time store. You know somebody Jewish? Now what? Answering 50 important questions. You can go to the Hope for Our Time store for that. It's fantastic. And if you get that, we're also going to give you this for free. It's the Rapture. It's this Rapture brochure. Folks, this is so cool. It's just wonderfully made, super simple. It takes you through the rapture in a way you can understand. It's great to help people understand. Also for those who are left behind. But that'll be free if you go to the store and you order this book from Olivier that we have, or one of the other things Olivier has, including the documentary that we did. So check that out. Okay, Olivier, as I look at this, I want to get into Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, and this ministry, that this organization that you had this vision. We're going to get there in just a second because it's really exciting to me and necessary. Yeah. But can you speak to the concept of silence as complicity, and why is it important for individuals and communities to speak out against rising anti-Semitism and genocide? And what are the risks of remaining silent?
Well, I think it was a quote by a Holocaust survivor and Nobel Peace Prize laureate Elie Wiesel, who said, "Silence is complicity." And I said in my own way, I tell people all the time that a bystander only facilitates the work of a perpetrator. If you think like, well, this is not my fight, this is not my problem, there's nothing I can do as one person, this is, I don't even know how to approach this, to tackle this problem, then you're basically allowing the perpetrators and the co-perpetrators, whoever is helping them, to do the damage against the Jewish people. And this goes for every situation, but we're talking about the Jewish people right now. And so we have to be vocal. We cannot be silent. And Tom, it has become a little surprising to some of our peers when I say this, that I currently don't believe that we can defeat anti-Semitism now. From now until the return of Messiah, I don't think we'll be defeating anti-Semitism. But what we can do is protect those who are the victims of it the best we can.
Mm-hmm.
I think the defeat of anti-Semitism will come at the second coming, for sure. But right now it's out of the box. It's growing. It's like a weed. It's just going everywhere very fast. But we have a mandate as believers to, according to Genesis 12:3, to do whatever we can to bless the Jewish people. And right now the blessing is going to be in the rescuing and sheltering. In the midst of that, hopefully, we can show our Jewish friends that why we do this is because of Messiah in our own life. And, we want to bless them because we've been blessed by the Jewish Messiah.
Amen. That passage, I will bless those who bless thee, I'll curse those who curse thee. There are some Christians that I've come across with over the years that have said, well, they actually think I'm going to bless Israel because God will pour the blessings upon me. This is the concept. And they're meaning material goods and things like that. This isn't what God is speaking of. Although God can bless you in whatever way he wants, ultimately there is an eternal blessing. I believe in an eternal reward that also associates in a time like now, but much more so in the tribulation period, with Matthew chapter 25, where Jesus talks. He says, hey, whatever you've done to the least of my brethren, this you have done unto me. Matthew chapter 24 and 25, as most of our viewers know, is the Olivet discourse, where Jesus is speaking directly into the tribulation period. So he's given this illustration. You give a cup of water, you visit me in prison, and so forth. You've done it.
And this is not talking about Christians.
Right. You've done it. Exactly. And speak to that, because you look at that, who's Jesus talking about? My brethren.
Well, this is, in a sense, it is talking about Christians because it's talking to people who would have gotten saved during the tribulation. And as a result of that, they want to bless the Jews according to Genesis 12:3. So brethren, according to, the brethren of Yeshua, according to the flesh, they're the Jews. He's a Jew in his humanity. And so if you help, during the tribulation, any Christian who will help Jewish people that will survive the tribulation will be guaranteed, as it says that Yeshua calls them the righteous. He calls them the sheep and the goat. The sheep are the righteous, and the righteous are entering into the kingdom right away because of how their treatment of the Jewish people. So anything they did to help the Jews is seen as by the Messiah as something they would have done to him. And it's huge. And it's not anything that you do to Christians today as a Christian to another Christian. It's talking about Jewish people being rescued and sheltered and helped and protected during the tribulation. Now, what I like to do is I like to look at the future event and bring it back to today and say, look at the principle. We are not going to be, I don't believe we'll be in a tribulation. We've already discussed that. But the principle of, as a believer, I want to do anything I can to help the Jews because, it's like I'm doing it unto the Messiah. Who wouldn't want to do that? I mean, he died for you and I to give us eternal life in the presence of God for all eternity. Who wouldn't want to serve him, to thank him, not to get salvation, but to thank him for what he did for us? So if I'm going to help Jewish people in any way, shape, or form, it's as if I'm doing it unto the Messiah. And that to me is very exciting. And yeah, I mean, I would want to do that. So I'm looking at bringing the principle today and say to Christians today, get ready. Find ways to help and reach out and bless Israel and the Jews now.
Yeah, I think now is an opportunity to do it, in a sense, in a small way. During the tribulation, it's going to be enormous. There's going to be much more pressure against those people not to help the Jews. Whatever you do, don't help them. So it'll be much more difficult then than it is now. And now, certainly, I'm sure most of our audience knows some Jewish people who do not know Jesus as Messiah. And it's understanding, we see attacks on synagogues, we see all these different dynamics taking place. Don't be afraid. Reach out and help them and let them know that you care. So Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, tell us about this vision that you've had. You got to be careful with saying vision, because you're not talking about, I saw the Lord and all of a sudden I said, that's not what Olivier's talking about.
No.
But fill us in.
Okay, so this was about 5 years ago, and then there's a group of about, I think it's 7 of us now, and we all had the same, the way I put it, I said the same vision, but then I usually say the Lord impressed on our hearts, okay, that we need to get organized to rescue Jewish people when it gets bad, which is, the time is now, today. And so we started, and it's continuing, it's growing every day. We started a network of like-minded believers in the spirit of the Civil War Underground Railroad. So it would be like an underground railroad for Jews. It's a private, by invitation only, a very secure network. It's not an organization. It's not a ministry. It's a network. And that network doesn't raise money, does not advertise, doesn't have any brochures, doesn't have anything. It's just a network. We add people to the network depending on where they live and what they can offer. Like, I have property. I'm a lawyer. I'm a doctor. I'm a farmer. I fly a plane. I'm a nurse. I've got livestock. Anything that could happen. It sounds very like a prepper. I'm not a prepper. But it's just like getting people organized. When Jewish people are at the time of need, they can connect with that network, and we say, okay, we're going to give you a place to go, and you just get there, or we will have ways to get them, if it's not even safe for them to get there on their own, and put them in the family for a day, a week, a month, we don't know. That is between them and the family where they are. And so we have Christians that are getting a hold of us daily to be added to that network. And the way they do it is they go to my ministry webpage, shalominmessiah.com, shalominmessiah.com. And they go to the connect button, click on that, and on the bottom of all the choices they have, there is one box that says, please let me know about the network that Olivier spoke about. Click the box, and any other box you want, but click that box, and that will start the vetting process. Because yes, there is a vetting process. We don't just take anybody who's going to say, yeah, let me try to see if I can, infiltrate this thing. So we're very, very protected.
It's going to have to be well protected. I mean, there's people that just invade in social media, let alone something like that, where people would like to invade something like that. Again, everybody, this book, excellent. You know somebody Jewish. Now What? Answering 50 Important Questions by Olivier Melnick. It's available in the store. And also this Rapture brochure, really, really cool, colorful, simple to understand, helps anybody be able to understand the Rapture. Plus, it's just a great tool for somebody to leave, for those who are left behind. Okay.
So Tom, tell me, if I order my book on your website, do I get the free brochure Rapture?
Yes, you would get it. It will come. Yes, you order this, you'll get this free. Or you order this, you'll get this free. No, no, you order the book, we'll include this free. So check it out. That's available this week. Okay. I know we've already covered this a little bit, but how does history teach us about the consequences of inaction in the face of evil? And again, it sounds somewhat redundant, but I think coming at it maybe from another angle or reiterating it. And how should this influence our current actions?
Well, if people are watching the news, or, first of all, anybody who's going to a church that's teaching the Bible, and there's not, the number of churches that are actually teaching the Bible properly is diminishing daily as well. They're going woke everywhere. But anybody going to a church that's teaching the Bible, teaching prophecy, will see the importance of Israel in the end times. We know that, as you alluded to at the beginning of the show, that Satan is going to do everything he can to get rid of the Jews, not just because he hates the Jews, although he does, but because he knows that the Jewish people at the end of the 7-year tribulation will call upon him being Yeshua, Jesus, and say, Baruch haba b'Shem Adonai, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. And Yeshua promised to Israel, I will not come back. I mean, let's take it for what it says. he tells upon his departure to be at the right hand of the Father, he said, I will not come back until you, my people, my Jewish people, say, blessed is you, comes in the name of the Lord. You rejected me. Some of you believed in me, but the vast majority of you rejected me as Messiah. I'm out. I will return. But that's going to have to be you calling me. So Satan knows that very well. And Satan's going to go like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I don't like what happens when they call him. He comes back and I'm done. So what if he could get rid of all the Jews and turn the Jews against the Christians against the Jews? And he's accomplished a lot of that over the last 2,000 years of histories. But the point is, right now, he knows that he's running on fumes, so he's pushing the envelope. He's doing a lot against the Jews, and Christians cannot afford to do nothing. Mm-hmm. Because, again, if you do nothing, you do something. And if you do nothing, when you see the Jewish people, you would do something if you saw somebody beat up a child on the street as you unloading your car with groceries. You would run and say, what are you doing? Leave this poor kid alone, or an old person, whatever. Why is it that with the Jews, we go like, well, maybe it's not my fight. Guess what? It's going to become more and more of your fight. But the time to get involved is right now, vocally and physically. And when I say physically, I don't mean personally fighting, but we have to be vocal for sure. And actually, you know what? As we progress into this thing, it's going to come to a place where physically, when you make a move, and I need to tell our audience, Tom, it's important. If you decide to join our network, there's a risk. This is not a feel-good thing. If you join the network, you become a person who's going to go all the way to rescue and protect Jewish people, which is the right thing to do in God's eyes. But there is a risk. There was a risk during the Second World War, during the Holocaust era. Guess what? The people doing it didn't care. They didn't even think about it. They just did it because it was the most natural thing to do. It was the right thing to do.
Yep. And there was risk. Some of the people lost their lives for assisting the Jews. But you go, it's also, there's a reward in heaven, and you want to be pleasing to the Lord. By the way, Olivier is going to be joining us in November 8, 9, and 10, at the End of the World Conference in Temecula, California. Check it out. You can register online for that. We have a lot of different speakers that are going to be here. All are going to be excellent. Some you have never heard speak of here before. And I'm really excited. It's going to be absolutely terrific. So join us, the End of the World Conference in Temecula, California, November 8, 9, and 10. It will be...
End of the World Conference? Does that mean that by November 10th, we're done?
Well, let's put it this way. It's the end of the world as many people are looking at things. Let's define it that way. People are looking and going, our hope is in Jesus Christ. And so that's exciting. You know what else is interesting, Olivier? I don't know if we talked about this part or not, but the conference is the Friday after the general election. So the election's on Tuesday, the conference begins on Friday, the end of the world.
It is also on the anniversary of Kristallnacht.
Wow. You look
November 9, 10, 1938 was Kristallnacht.
Yeah. Wow. Well, you know what else? You know this already. The main focus is going to be Israel, and then and working things out from there. All of the messages are going to be different. We have some Israelis that were flying in for the conference. It's just going to be absolutely terrific.
Great.
It'll be a little bit different from a regular prophecy conference. I think it's going to be the best one ever. But our hope is in Jesus. Yeah, it's the End of the World Conference because people are looking, going, this is the end of the world. We're going, let's say the end of the world as you know it. But it's going to be terrific.
Right.
When I look at this, last question, Olivier, is, okay, we know the trend is going to increase in anti-Semitism, especially during the tribulation, so we're not going to stop it because we know so why get involved in something we're not going to stop?
Again, because it's the right thing to do. I wrote an article, I think it's like 2 articles ago, or maybe the last one I did on my blog at shalomandmessiah.com. And the title of the article and the gist of the article is, what kind of German, if it was 1930s and 1940s, what kind of German would you have been? Mm-hmm. In other words, would you have been a Himmler or a Goering or a Hitler, or would you have been a Martin Niemöller or Dietrich Bonhoeffer or Oskar Schindler? What kind of German would you have been? And that's the question I have for you listening today. As we're getting in the midst of full force into the 1930s and 40s again, ask yourself, because the kind of German you would have been back in the 30s and 40s will determine the kind of person you can be today, to either turn your back on the Jews and turn your back on God, or help the Jews and be in God's will.
Amen. A while back, I was able to do a video and posted it too. And it was in the cemetery there in Jerusalem, the graveyard for the righteous Gentiles. And Schindler's, in fact, we did a whole video right there next to Schindler's grave. But we look at this and think, which side do I want to be on? There's so many people say, well, I'm not going to get involved because I'm just not going to win. That's not why you do something, whether or not you're going to win or lose. That might be why you play football, but that's not why you get involved in the things of God. You get involved in them because they're the things of God, and it's being on God's side and realizing, listen, you do win. We're going to get to the end. Jesus is coming back, and it's going to be great, but we do it because this is right, and these are the things that God would have us do. I'd like to do a whole show with you next time, or coming up in the near future, covering this a particular subject that nobody ever talks about. And we're going to get to it. It's regarding the Jewish people and Israel. So it's just one that I never hear anybody talk about. And I know you have a lot of thoughts toward it. I don't know if you've even written about it yet, but that's going to be next time. But
what's the topic again?
Well, I'll tell you. I'm going to have to tell you off there.
Okay. I'm going
to have to tell you off there. Nobody ever talks about it. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah,
all right.
I don't want to commit to anything publicly and then.
Yeah, you don't want to go, oh, that's a bad idea. So, hey, thank you everybody for joining us. Olivier, thank you so much for joining us. Can't wait to see you. I know I'll be seeing you soon enough. We'll even see each other in Jerusalem in the not too distant future. But God bless you. God bless you, everybody. And make sure you go to Olivier's website, shalomandmessiah.com.
Yes, and also subscribe to my YouTube channel at the same name, Shalom and Messiah, or my name. You'll find me and subscribe. There's a lot of teaching there. So God bless you and be blessed.
God bless. Thanks, everybody.